Sorry for the late. There was network issue. That's why I could not join on time. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukhaṁ karoti vācālaṁ pangum langhāyate girim Yatkripatamaham Bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramanandamadhavam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So, welcome all of you for our Bhakti Shastri course. And now here we are in the 17th chapter. And we have covered so far 10 verses of the 17th chapter. So, yes. Yes, the screen is visible to all the devotees.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Fine. So here we saw that in the first 7 verses, initially Arjuna puts the question about what of those people who are in between, and then Krishna begins to answer that how that depends on the which kind of mode their faith is, and based on the faith we saw that their worship is also in particular that mode. So that thing we saw in these first 7 verses. And then Krishna will further start explaining that how the 3 important activities which are considered in the Vedic life, that is Yajna, Dana and Tapa, how they are also divided into 3 modes. So before that we also saw last time Ahar. Ahar was the one item which we saw last time. How that is also divided into 3 modes. So that was from verse number 8 to 10, 8, 9 and 10. And then from 11 onwards, 11, 12, 13, Krishna will speak about Yajna. 14, 15, 16, Krishna will speak about 3 types of tapa. And then 17, 18, 19, he will explain tapa in 3 modes. So these 3 types of tapa are considered to be tapa in mode of goodness. And then 17, 18, 19 explanation will be given about the tapa in 3 modes, and 20, 21, 22 explanation will be given about dana or charity in 3 modes, and finally 23 to 28 the conclusive words of the Lord based on how these 3 words Om Tat Sat mean nothing but absolute truth, and all these activities, especially yajna, dana, and tapa, are to be done in faith with the Supreme Absolute. So this is how the flow of the chapter is, and out of that we have covered till verse number 10. So now let's go ahead with the next. Yeah, so one thing which I wanted to mention is in the last time we discussed about the ahara. So I forgot to emphasize, although I mentioned it with the 2 quotations of Chaitanya Charitamrita, that how prasad is beyond the modes, and we don't count prasad in any mode. Prasad is always prasad, so we don't categorize it in that sense. But at the same time, we can understand that till the time our consciousness is not transcendental, so the material things will have the material effects. Just like if somebody is having a issue of diabetes, so for him sugar is forbidden, and if he say, oh, this is, rasgulla is prasad of the Lord, so I can have it. But yes, the prasad will have its own effect of elevating the consciousness, and the sugar in the prasad will have its own effect of increasing the diabetes, because that is there. Obviously, if somebody has the faith also, which has become transcendental, then even eating sugar will not increase his diabetes, or there will be no harmful effect. But one has to evaluate oneself for this. And then we also see that sometimes we carry the food in journey, or rather we can say prasad, because during journey then we don't get anything outside and we avoid eating outside. So then we carry, so that food also becomes more than 3 hours. What 3 hours? Sometimes it is 24 hours if we are traveling from Pune to Mayapur, or like places like that. So, or Jagannath Puri. So, but point is, there is different way of making, that is also given in our Vedic scriptures, that there are some items which are meant to be made in such a way that they are preserved naturally. So that is one way. And second thing is, in olden times when people would travel, so they would not travel in this way, the way we do. They would travel with their own baggage of food items also, and they would halt in the night and cook something. So anyways, the time has changed, the situation has changed, so we have certain ways and means by which we can always make sure that the principle which we follow is that prasad is always to be taken. That is a spiritual principle, and that should be the priority. And secondary also, we can make sure that based on the mode, if that is done, then that will also be very beneficial. Fine. So let's go to verse number 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Apalakankshiphir yajño.
Afalakankshabhir
Afalakankshabhir yajño.
Vidhi drashto yat ijjate.
Vidhi drishtoya ijjate.
Dishtoya liyate.
Satyam eveti manaha.
Yashvatvam
Yame
eveti manaha.
eveti manaha.
Ayasa satvikaha.
Samadhaya
Satvika.
Translation, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the directions of scripture as a matter of duty by those who desire no reward is of the nature of goodness.
Yes. So afala kankshibhir yagyo. Or we can start with vididishto. Yes, that is performed according to scripture. So vididishto, and then yashtavyam eva iti. Yashtavyam means because it has to be done as a matter of duty, and afala akankshibhi, without desire for material results. So when such kind of yajna is performed, so then what happens is, then it is in mode of goodness. So we have this platforms, four platforms of worship, that is fear, desire, duty, love. So here we can see it is mentioned here that it is a matter of duty. So anything done out of duty is to be considered in mode of goodness. So first is fear. Out of fear means there is some fear that what will happen to me, or I may, not get my desired benefits, or fear of some other kind. So that is a very low level. Second is the desire to have something material benefits, and that we see is nothing but the characteristic of mode of passion, which will come in our next discussion ahead. But duty, out of duty, it is performed without any desire of material results and according to the scriptures, perform according to scriptures. So this is the explanation of the sacrifice done in the mode of goodness. Yes, somebody can read this purport.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One should go to a temple or church as a matter of duty, offer respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and offer flowers and eatables without any purpose of obtaining material benefit. Everyone thinks that there is no use in going to the temple just to worship God. But worship for economic benefit is not recommended in the scriptural injunctions. One should go simply to offer respect to the deity. That will place one in the mode of goodness.
Yes. So we know these four purusharthas: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So generally people want to perform dharma to get some artha and kama. But the real goal of dharma is moksha. The artha and kama are just what you say, on the way, they are there. But one should not perform dharma just to get artha, and one should not just accumulate artha to achieve kama. But the real purpose has to be kept in the mind. That is the moksha. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is mentioning. Worship for economic benefit is not recommended in scriptural injunctions. So like that. Let's go to the next verse. Abhisandhaya tu phalam.
Abhisandhaya tu
Phalam.
phalam.
Api chaiva yat.
Dambardham api chaiva
Dambardhamapicaiva
Bharata Shrestha.
yat
Yat
Shrestha
Shrestha
Yatyam Vidhi Rajasam.
Tam
Yajnam
Yajnam
Vidirajasam.
Translation.
Hare Krishna. But the sacrifice performed for some material benefit or for the sake of pride, O chief of the Bharatas, you should know to be in the mode of passion. Hare Krishna.
So just now we saw aphala kankshti, and here it is abhisandhayatu phalam. That it is performed with some desire to get material benefit. Abhisandhayatu phalam, that is performed with desire for material benefits, either in this world or elevation to heavenly planets. And dambardham api, that is for the sake of pride and attachment to the result and attachment to doership has been revealed here, which is the consciousness of a person in mode of passion, or the person who is performing sacrifice in mode of passion. That he is attached to the result, he wants the phalam, and he is having this doership mentality. For the sake of pride, he is performing this sacrifice. Just a minute. Okay, the next one. Vidihinam asrushtanam
Vidhihinam asrishtanam
Asvishtanam
mantrahinam adakshinam
mantrahinam
Mantravihinam
adakshinam
Adakshanam
Shraddha virahitam yajnam
Shraddha
Shraddha
virahitam yajnam
Virahitam yajnam
tamasam parichakshate.
Tamasam
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 parichakshate.
Parichakshate.
Translation.
Hare Krishna. When is sacrifice performed without regard for for the directions of scripture, without distribution of prasadam, spiritual food, without chanting of Vedic hymns and remunerations to the priests, and without faith, is considered to be in the mode of ignorance. Hare Krishna.
So many things are mentioned here. Vidhihinam, that there is no scriptural rules or regulation in this particular type of sacrifice. No direction. Then asrishtannam, that is without distribution of prasadam. That when the sacrifice is done, one should do it. But here in this kind of thing, it is not done. And mantrahinam, even mantras are not chanted or chanted just for the sake of chanting improperly. Like there are some situations when some devotees have noted that in some of the ceremony in the marriage, they were chanting some other mantras, which are not supposed to be chanted in the marriage. So because nobody knows what mantras are going on to be chanted, so then people are just there to bluff around. So mantra hinam and adakshinam, that without remuneration to the priest. So I remember one incident that in one of the our ISKCON temple inauguration, the yajna was performed and everything was done. And after that, the temple started, and there was a lot of problems going on in the temple. And then, so the management team and all the senior devotees, they came together and they were wondering why all these things are happening. And then that time, one of the devotee, he just thought and asked, did we offer dakshina to the priest after the inauguration yajna? And then everyone was wondering, whose responsibility was, and this and that, and they finally understood that that was not done, and that caused so many issues. So then, adakshinam is not to be done. Dakshina has to be given to the priest. And then we see Shraddha Virahitam. There is no Shraddha, no faith in what he is performing. So we see that Asrishtannam, here it is mentioned, that the sacrifice done in ignorance, they don't distribute the food. Whereas we see in the contrast when Krishna performed Govardhan Leela. So after the Govardhan was offered so much of bhoga, and Govardhan was also very merciful that after accepting, he again manifested that same in the form of prasad. And then Krishna directed that now this prasad has to be distributed to all who were present, and not just to the humans, but then it was also ordered that the cows also should be fed, and other lower animals also should be fed this prasad. So like that it was done. So even we see that Srila Prabhupada, when he was there in US in the initial days, we know that how Prabhupada would, it's mentioned in Lilananda, that after the program, Prabhupada would simply take one apple and he would count how many people are there and cut exact number of slices and offer everyone one slice of apple. So offering prasad at the end of the sacrifice of the lecture or the discourse of Bhagavad Gita. So like this is there, but this sacrifice, when it is performed in ignorance, then all these characteristics are observed. Yes, somebody can read this purport, part of the purport, or actually the full purport.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Faith in the mode of darkness or ignorance is actually faithlessness. Sometimes people worship some demigod just to make money and then spend the money for recreation, ignoring the scriptural injunctions. Such ceremonial shows of religiosity are not accepted as genuine. They are all in the mode of darkness. They produce a demoniac mentality and do not benefit human society. Hare Krishna.
We also see that even at the time of Mahaprabhu's appearance, or just before that, even in Mayapur and all that area, people were performing all such kind of nonsense activities like this that we have heard, that they were performing marriages of cats and dogs, like that. So it was all completely vidhihinam and shraddha virahitam, just for the sake of fun, as Prabhupada is mentioning here. A lot of amount of money was spent. So now, after explaining what is the sacrifice in 3 modes, Krishna is now going to explain the austerity, tapa, which are of 3 types. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about that these are the 3 types of sattvic tapa, which will be explained in 14, 15, and 16. Yes. Devadvija Guru Pradnya Janam Shauchamajavam
Pujanam
Shauchamajavam
Brahmacharyam Ahimsa Cha
Brahmacharyam ahimsa cha
Chariram Tapa Uchyate.
Sariram Tapamuchyate.
Translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord. The Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and the superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence.
So here, word pujanam has been explained as respect. So whom should we respect? One should respect Deva. What is Deva? Deva is the Supreme Lord and also the demigods. So Deva. And then second thing is Dvija. Dvija are the Brahmanas. In the society, the Brahmanas are respected. And out of that, so many Brahmanas are there. Out of those many, one of them becomes the Guru of the person. So then, Deva Dvija Guru. So one should also respect one's Guru. And Pragya. Pragya are the superiors or the intelligent people, other intelligent people or the superiors. They are also to be always respected. So we also see that once Srila Prabhupada's disciple, he was not offering obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, as an acharya and a great teacher, compassionate teacher, he himself is asking why you are not offering obeisances. After that, he says that I don't feel like. So then Prabhupada says, even if you don't feel like, you should offer it. So this is what this is. This is Shariram Tapa Uchyate. This is a tapasya of the body, and that's why it has to be done, whether one likes it or not, whether one feels it or not. So that has to be done. And interestingly, we see that Krishna has many times in Bhagavad Gita spoken about Kama and Krodh. And we also see that Krodh is nothing but Kamanuja, that he just follows the Kama. And Kama and Krodh are always talked together. Here we see that 2 words, Brahmacharyam and Ahimsa, are talked together as a matter of Shariram Tapa, the austerity of the body. So we can see that Brahmacharya is that thing which helps us to control the Kama, and Ahimsa is the thing which helps us to control the Krodha. So that is how Krishna has coupled these 2 words together for the Sharira Tapa. So yes, somebody can read this.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One should offer or learn to offer respect to God or to the demigods, the perfect, qualified Brahmanas, and the spiritual master and superiors like father, mother, or any person who is conversant with Vedic knowledge. These should be given proper respect. Arjavam. He should not do anything which is not sanctioned by the spiritual injections.
So as we talk about the respect or offering respect, we just now talked about the pastime of Srila Prabhupada of offering obeisances. So we see that actually the great devotees, exalted devotees, they are so much in love with the Lord that as soon as they see the deity of the Lord, they just fall down, unconscious, like a rod. When they see and that we have seen in the past time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he reached Jagannath Puri, and he was completely unconscious in the front of the Lord. So that is called as Dandavat, just like Danda, they fall down. And we are imitating that thing. And as Prabhupada has many times said, imitation of good is good. So these things can be imitated. The activity or the achara, which is good achar, sad achar, with proper consciousness, then the person also starts feeling to do that kind of activity. And here arjavam word has also been used. Shaucham and arjavam. Shaucham is the cleanliness. Again, that we have talked in length, that the internal and external. And arjavam means simple, and simple here or without duplicity here means that not doing anything which is not sanctioned by scriptural regulations. Means he has such a simple faith. If scriptures has said this, I will do it. And a very simple example of this is when we say that scriptures say that if you touch the dung of any animal or even of humans, then you have to take bath. And cow dung is purified. So one simply accepts this and follows it. One doesn't argues over it. One doesn't doubts over it. That is arjavam. So that is sharira tapa. To accept the Vedic injunctions as it is. Like that. Now let's see what is Vangmayan Tapa, that is the austerity of speech. So we see these three things, body, words, and mind are being talked about. And these three things are there mentioned even in the, when we see the nectar of instruction, the first verse, Vacho Vegam. While explanation of that, Saraswati Thakur also talks about these three things, body, mind, and words, the vega of the body, mind, and words. And we also see that the sannyasis that carry the three dandi sannyasis. So they are also carrying this three danda, which represent this only, that to kaya, vacha, and manasa. I offer my everything to the Supreme Lord. So these three things are being talked about here. So now kaya, that is body, is over. Now vacha will come. Anudvegakaram vakyam.
Anudvegakaram vakyam
Satyam priyahitam chayat.
Satyam
priyam
Priyam
chayat
Adhyayabhyasanam chaiva.
Svadhyayabhyasanam
Svadhyayabhyasanam
chaiva
Mayam tapa uchyate.
Mayam tapa
tapa
uchyate.
uchyate.
Translation.
Hare Krishna. Austerity of speech
Austere speech
speaking words
consists
that
in
are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature.
So we see that the material tendency is always wherein the person wants to speak something, and that's why first verse of nectar of instruction says vacho vegam, control that urge of speech. And spiritual tendency is that about speaking about Krishna. But here in this particular verse, when Krishna is telling us about Vangma and Tapa, that is the austerity of speech, he is talking in general, not only about devotee or for devotee. So what is Udvega Karam? Here is mentioned, the Vakya is Anudvega Karam Vakya. So what is Udvega Karam? That which agitates the person. And we see generally that what agitates a person is when somebody points out or pinpoints his faults, or points out his faults, or touches the falsehood of that person by pinpointing his faults in a very sarcastic way. So sarcasm is nothing but a sign of cleverness or intelligence, we can say. But the persons using sarcasms are generally misusing that to create, some negative effect on the other person, which actually agitates udvega. It creates udvega or agitation. So anudvega karam means not even by indications we should create agitation. Forget about speaking, but even by indications it should not happen. On the other hand, we see persons like Vidura who are devoted to the Supreme Lord, and he is speaking such harsh words to Dhritarashtra in the 13th chapter we see of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that you are living like a dog and all these things, your teeth are fallen away, and how long you are going to live, and you are eating from the hands of that Bhima who had vowed to kill all your sons and he has done it, and all these things kind of, words are being used. But we can see that Vidura has a very long-standing relationship with Dhritarashtra, and for for his whole life he had always been a well-wisher to Dhritarashtra with no mal-intentions, and which was always acknowledged by Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra would always say, whatever you are saying is true, but I am not able to follow that. And when these words were used by Vidura at that particular time, then it were piercing into the heart of Dhritarashtra, which transformed his heart, and actually he took up and went out. So that way we can say that words of Vidura are udvega karam, because it may be udveg in one sense, but it created a positive impact. Whereas what Krishna is trying to mention over here, that this agitation generally causes wrong impact, and the person is in a very disturbed state. So that kind of thing is not expected. So that is not udveg. One should not do this udveg. So like that. So whenever we are in touch with the people, we should make sure that they should feel trust in us, and they should see us as our well-wisher and feel to come back and even have more discussions with us. Not that we just put them down by speaking some harsh words, by using the philosophy. So we may be speaking the truth, but it is not palatable to the person. So that is coming up in the next, that how Krishna is speaking, that anudvega karam vakyam, the speech should be anudvega karam. It should not agitate. At the same times, it should be satyam and priyam. So yes, somebody can read this part of the purport which the Prabhupada has mentioned.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Anudvega karam vakyam. One should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students. But such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. Satyam.
So this is also
Besides
another important, just a minute. This is also a very important thing, that teacher is allowed to speak the truth for the instruction of teachers, but he should not speak to others, those who are not his students. So a very, very important instruction we are getting in our own life to follow, that we may also be having some people whom we are cultivating or having discussions. So in course of time, there may be a time where we may have to correct them or offer them the right understanding, right perspective. So that is all right, because the person has accepted you as a teacher, and then he has that faith and level of trust. So then he accepts it. But suddenly his new friend comes up, and then without investing that trust in him, we start speaking in the same way to what we are speaking to this person. Then that will not be accepted by this new person in this way. So he is not yet become your student. He has not yet accepted you as a teacher. So then that will agitate him. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Satyam. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circle is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Priya, at the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear.
So even if we are speaking Satyam from the scripture, but if that can be presented in a way that is pleasurable to the ear. So Satya has to be spoken. We cannot say that, that, oh, no, you can live long, there is no problem. No, we know that this body is temporary, so that is temporary. But that has to be spoken. But then that has to be spoken in a way the person will accept it and try to follow in his life. So that is an art, and it is not something which can be done in a day or two. Generally, many of us, including myself, have gone through the times where I have personally created a lot of damages to many people, and eventually come to understanding at how it can be presented, in a better way. So even after getting this knowledge, sometimes we fail, but we keep trying and being sincere and honest in our attempts, and then Krishna will eventually bless us with the right understanding. So I'm not sure where this comes, but it comes somewhere in Subhashit. There are Subhashits in Sanskrit. So one of the Subhashits says like this: Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, na bruyat satyam apriyam, priyam cha nanrutam bruyat, esha dharma sanatana. So what is the dharma? That Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat. Speak the truth and speak it pleasing truth. Na bruyat satyam apriyam. Don't speak that type of truth which is apriyam. And priyam cha nandritam bruyat. So what is this na bruyat satyam apriyam? It is not the philosophical truth, because the philosophical truth may be priya or may not be priya, but that has to be spoken. But this kind of truth is what, like we see in the case of just when Dhritarashtra left home, so then Yudhishthira Maharaj was in very much disturbed condition, and that time Narad Muni comes there and he pacifies him, and then he indicates that if within a short time, when Lord Krishna leaves this world, you also, or you can stay here till the time Lord Krishna is stayed there on this planet. Narad Muni just indicates like that. But the real fact was that already Lord Krishna had departed from this world. But Narad Muni does disclose, does Vidura, who had come before Narad Muni, he also does not disclose this, because this is very difficult to digest this for the Pandavas. So then they did not disclose that. So na bruyat satyam apriyam. So we should not take this to be that absolute truth or the philosophical truth is not to be spoken. No, that always has to be spoken, because that is the next line coming. Priyam cha nandritam bruyat. Don't speak that which is not, truth. It may be, don't speak something only pleasing, but which is not truth or false. So not only pleasing, but satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat. Speak the truth and speak it pleasingly. Esha dharma sanatana. So like that. And we see this in the life of even Srila Prabhupada, who was such a staunch personalist. Yet, when he was staying with Dr. Mishra, who was a hardcore impersonalist, there was such a difference of opinion in philosophical way between Mishra and Prabhupada. And Mishra also knew that. One or two times when he allowed Srila Prabhupada to speak discourse on Bhagavad Gita, so then some of the people, they came with some questions to Dr. Mishra, which revealed to him that he is speaking personalistic, and these people are getting doubts, and then they will question my existence. So he then later on did not allow Srila Prabhupada further. He did not give more chance. But when there was a difficulty in the life of Dr. Mishra, he was sick and he could not recover very quickly. So that time Srila Prabhupada, with a great heart of compassion, he cooked for Dr. Mishra and gave some food which will recover him quickly. So preaching doesn't give us the license to simply speak harshly, but preaching is an art by which we should bring the people close to Krishna. So that is expected. And then in this verse further it is also said swadhyaya, that one should study. And study here, it means the recitation, abhyasanam, recitation or repetition. So that has to be done, because we see that this recitation or repetition or memorization of the Vedas is so very important that it helps us actually at the time of our greatest need. And the classic example of this is Gajendra, who was caught in this jaw of crocodile for hundreds of celestial years. There was a fight going on, nothing worked. And finally, when he was remembered of his past, some verses of his past life as King Indradyumna, so then he recited those verses, offering a flower to the Lord, and Lord came to his escape, like that. So memorization of the verses is a very, very important aspect, and that is explained here as a part of tapa of speech. If one is able to start learning slokas or memorizing slokas, so that is very, very helpful. And we see that Srila Prabhupada introduced this repetition of shloka, in the Bhagavatam class, and that was done at which place? It was done in Los Angeles, when where the generation of Hippies was much more degraded than other place, in New York and other places. So at that place, Srila Prabhupada started this recitation of verses. And actually, it is a very, very important weapon in one sense to all of us, which helps us at the trying circumstances. If a soldier is on the war zone, and if he suddenly realizes that, oh, I have not brought my weapon, he cannot say to the enemy that just wait, I'll come back. Before he says that or before he ends that talk, he will be killed. So like that. So that's why the trying situations can come in any time in our life, and to be prepared for that, we should keep our weapons ready. In our armament, we should have some mala of verses, ready, like that. So that will help us to deal the situations rightly. And now Krishna is talking about manasam tapa, that the tapasa, austerity of the mind. Mana prasada saumyatvam.
Mana prasada saumyatvam.
Atma vinigraha.
Maunam vinigraha.
Bhavasam suddhiret iti etat.
Bhavasam suddhiti etat.
Samuchyate.
Tapo
Yes. Translation.
Shall I read, Prabhu?
Yes.
Okay. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind.
So, very wonderful things Krishna is explaining through these verses. First one is about mana prasad. So satisfaction. So what is satisfaction? Sometimes people may feel that it is nothing but yet another emotion or a feeling. But Krishna is giving us here understanding it is not simply an emotion or feeling which comes on its own accord, but it is a choice, or it is a decision based on our choice. What is the example? If we see that the advertisement of Onida TV, which would go long back, neighbors envy, owners pride. So why would neighbor envy? Neighbor will envy only when the neighbor has that kind of dissatisfaction in his heart. So he sees that this person has got Onida TV, which is such a nice TV, and my TV is not so nice. So when this kind of calculation comes into place, then there is dissatisfaction. So everything, this kind of thing is based on our choice, our decision, our values, what we have in our life. Another example we can see is that in today's day and age, every one of us need a cell phone for being in touch with others. So it has become a necessity in one sense. Obviously, if we go on a higher level, that is also not needed. And I knew some very great devotees. They hardly use their cell phones, or they use it only for a very limited time, and still they are continuing. But anyways, for practical purposes, we accept that yes, there is a need. But what is the dissatisfaction? That when the person sees, okay, now new model has launched with some better facilities and better features. Oh, my phone is not having these features and facilities. So then let me have that. That is dissatisfaction. So having a cell phone as a basic need or necessity is all right. But then one keeps that kind of hankering by seeing others, people having it, or advertisement, bombardment coming out. So in that sense, then one sees, then that will cause the dissatisfaction. So then one should learn to give something different thing for the mind. Only then it can be remain in a peaceful and satisfied condition. And that is that when we give the mind Vedic scriptures or the stories in the scriptures. So not just a feeling or emotion, but choice. Yes, somebody can read this part of the purport.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Vinod Pranam. Can I read, Prabhu?
Yes.
Mana prasad, satisfaction, not just feeling or emotion, but choice. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification. And so, there is no possibility of the mind's becoming satisfied. The best course is to divert the mind to the Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Puranas and the Mahabharata.
So this is one of the tapasya of the mind, that we should learn to keep the mind satisfied, and that will be only possible when we have diverted the mind to the Vedic literature. Otherwise, there are so many plethora of things in this world to always keep the mind dissatisfied. Saumyatvam is another word used here, which nothing means again, simple, or as here Srila Prabhupada is translating it as being without duplicity. So that again means simple. And then maunam. So one may wonder, maunam means not speaking, isn't it? So is it austerity of mind or is it austerity of speech? And why then Krishna has put it in the austerity of mind? Or how can we say that this is austerity of mind? So when we see that, we also hear many people take up to this mauna vrata, that they don't speak anything. But there are many such people who have taken mauna vrata. When they have to communicate with others, they keep some slate and with them, or some whiteboard or chalk or something, and then they write and communicate. And sometimes in that they write so much that they speak more than what they would otherwise. So maunam does not mean physically shutting the mouth, but actually it is calming the mind. So that is real mauna. Why? Because why people speak so much? Because the sound of the mind is so loud that to curb that sound, they keep on speaking, a lot. For them, this sound of speech is tolerable than the external silence. Because in that external silence, the mind starts speaking loudly, and that they cannot tolerate. So that is why then the people, they have so much of this urge to always speak something. And opposite of this maunam or the silence is, or rather, sorry, opposite of this urge to speak is gravity. That's why Prabhupada has translated maunam as gravity, not just keeping silence. So when that gravity is there within the mind, then the person will automatically speak what is only necessary things. And then Prabhupada also talks about that how if we start thinking about the welfare of others, then automatically that gravity would come. Why? Because thinking of Krishna always is not so easy in the impure stage. But when we start thinking about doing welfare of others, which is always a tendency for the person in the conditioned state, so then he can start thinking about doing welfare for others in the spiritual terms, and then his mind is engaged in higher things, and that's how it becomes more great. Like that. So if we start thinking and worrying about how we can connect people to Krishna, so then that will automatically make us great. Then Atma Vinigraha is also yet another quality of the tapasya of the mind. So again here, the control of the senses, which is Atma Vinigraha, it appears that externally the senses have to be controlled. But the root of that is Mana. Mana Adhishthaya, we saw that Man is the central figure of all the senses. So when that mind is engaged in the right direction, then all the senses are automatically controlled. And Bhava Samshuddhi. So mind has to work upon purifying the whole existence. So that is the tapasya of the mind. So we saw this mana, prasada, satisfaction, and then saumyatvam, maunam, atma vinigra, and bhava samshuddhi are nothing but the austerities of the mind. Yes, somebody can read this part of the purport.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can I read?
Yes.
Saumyatvam, Maunam, Atma Vinigraha, Bhava Samshuddhi. Yes, Prabhuji. The mind should be devoid of duplicity, and one should think of the welfare of all. Silence means that one is always thinking of self-realization. The person in Krishna consciousness observes perfect silence in this sense. Control of the mind means detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. One should be straightforward in his dealings and thereby purify his existence. All these qualities together constitute austerity in mental activities. Hare Krishna.
So far, any questions in this regard?
Ravji, can you please explain Saumyatvam and Bhava Samshuddhi once again with example?
Saumyatvam here is simplicity, as Prabhupada mentioned. The mind should be devoid of duplicity. And how can that happen? Prabhupada has immediately given the solution that one should think of welfare of all. So generally, the mind is engaged in thinking of exploiting others and trying to get something. When the mind is focused on activities of sense gratification, then naturally it will try to see how the senses are gratified, and for that, then what has to be done. So in that sense, then the mind becomes duplicitous. But instead of that, if the mind is thinking about welfare of others, then it will automatically be freed of that duplicity. So that is Saumyatva. And Bhava Samshuddhi is nothing but purifying one's existence. So here Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that one should be straightforward in his dealings and thereby purify his existence. So the whole goal of his existence is to purify. So that is the austerity of the mind, because again, same thing, that in conditioned state, the mind is contaminated and polluted with all kinds of desires and duplicitous thoughts and trying to win over others, all these things that we saw in the 16th chapter, the demoniac qualities, to greater or smaller extent they may be existing. But one should understand that actually the austerity of mind is to not allow to go along with these thoughts, but to rather help in such a way that the existence is pure. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Any other question?
Prabhuji, but how do you control it? How do you not allow it? What do you do so that the mind doesn't go that way?
Yeah, so that's why we Prabhupada is giving here the solution. I will go back so that it will be 3 days. See, here it is mentioned, the best course is to divert the mind to the Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Puranas and the Mahabharata. So that is one thing. Second thing we saw in the austerity of speech, that Swadhyaya Abhyasanam. So we recite verses and memorize verses and all these things. So then when such thoughts come, the negative thoughts, then we have some stock with us to divert the mind from those things to positive things. So it is not a one-day job or one-day activity. It requires abhyasa. So Krishna has also mentioned that to control the mind, it's not easy, but then abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyacha vidyate. By practice of detachment and by regular practice, and detachment, you can control the mind. So that is Krishna's verdict in same Bhagavad Gita. So for that, this abhyas is needed. So it is not a one-day job, it is a practice, and that's why we call this sadhana bhakti. Means what? Wherein we are practicing to be like pure devotees. We are not yet pure, we are in an impure state, but we are practicing to be like pure devotees. The activities of sadhana bhakti are nothing but the activities of pure devotees done in pure love. But we are doing that in as a matter of duty, or as a matter of we can say that because we have promised our spiritual master. So that's why. So this kind of things will not shift our consciousness in one day, but when we are sincere and serious and continuously performing these activities, then this thing will happen gradually. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes. Shraddhaya paraya tattam trividham naraihi apalakankshibiryuktaihi Afrikam parichakshate.
Satvikam parichakshate.
Translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This threefold austerity performed with transcendental faith by men, not expecting material benefits, but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme, is called austerity in goodness. Hare Krishna.
Now one may question that here it is mentioned this threefold austerity performed with transcendental faith. Now question may be answered that we are still in a conditioned state, then how can the faith be transcendental? So it is just like that, that when we initially Krishna consciousness, somebody tells us about this process, somebody tells us about Krishna, so he tells about the transcendental spiritual world, and we have that initial faith, Adav Shraddha. So that initial faith is in there in what? In that transcendental realm. Although we are not yet transcendental, we have not yet become, or we have not transcended the modes, yet we put faith in the transcendental. So that is what is explained here. Shraddhaya paraya taptam. That the faith is in transcendence. So when this threefold austerity is performed with this type of transcendental faith, and how? Apala kankshibhir yuktaihi, without expecting any returns or results of that. Satvikam parichakshate. Yuktaihi, the word yukta is for the sake of the Supreme. So these two characteristics are mentioned, that not expecting material benefits and engaged only for the sake of Supreme. Then that kind of tapa or austerity is satvika. And again, the third important quality is shraddhaya paraya. That the faith is in transcendence. So there is no purport to this. Satkarman pujartham tapodamdena chaiva yat iyate tad iha proktam rajasam chalam adhruvam. Translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Penance performed out of pride and for the sake of gaining respect, honor, and worship is said to be in the mode of passion. It is neither stable nor permanent.
So as against the austerity performed in the goodness, here it is mentioned what? It was mentioned that akankshita phala. There is no desire. But here, what is the desire? Satkar, man, puja. Satkar is kind of respect that one is offered for the performance of that tapasya. And man is the special honor given to him in regards to following his that type of tapasya. And pujartham is exclusive worship of that person for the sake of performance of that tapasya. So the person is doing that tapasya with these kind of motivations in his mind or in his heart, that I will get some puja, labha and pratishtha from my subordinates, who are actually ignorant in one sense, because they don't know what is the real thing. And another is dambhena. Second, one more character to mention is dambhena. It is out of pride. He is doing this to get this with pride. So then that is rajasam tapa. And what is the result of this rajasam tapa? It is chalam and adhruvam. So we see that verse chanchalam hi manak krishna, that the mind is flickering. So here the word chalam has come. Chalam is flickering. That is not stable. And adhruvam is also not permanent. Tadapi adhruvam arthadam, Prahlad Maharaj says, in case of this material body. So it is not permanent. So that is the tapasya performed in mode of passion.
In that case, the one performed by Daksha Prajapati, can that be an example?
Yes, very correct. Because it was performed with this kind of understanding. And when whatever desired result was not offered by one person, only one person. Everyone else was giving him respect. Only one person, and that too, he thought that he's not giving respect. Then everything was turned around. Yeah, very nice example. Thank you. Yes, somebody can read this purport of 18th verse. I have not put it on the slide.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Sometimes penance and austerity are executed to attract people and receive honor, respect, and worship from others. Persons in the mode of passion arrange to be worshipped by subordinates and let them wash their feet and offer riches. Such arrangements, artificially made by the performance of penances, are considered to be in the mode of passion. The results are temporary. They can be continued for some time, but they are not permanent. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mulagrahena moyat pidaya kriyate tapaha parayot sadanatham va tattamasam udarutam. Translation.
Penance performed out of foolishness with self-torture or to destroy or injure others is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
And Srila Prabhupada in the purport gives the example of Hiranyakashipu, who performed austerities to become immortal and then kill the demigods. But ultimately, he was only killed. So what it is, Muda Grahena Atmano, that they are doing this foolish endeavor. These foolish people with endeavors. What they are doing, Atmano, Yat Pidaya, which tortures themselves. So we see in the case of Hiranyakashipu that he did such a tapasya that even ants came and ate whole of his body. So to that extent he performed this tapasya. And parasyod sadhanartham. Why it is done? Parasya utsadhana artham. To give trouble to others. Or Prabhupada translated as to be the cause of annihilation. For the sake of annihilating others. So that is their desire. So in that sense, they are doing. And we see this in case of Hiranyakashipu. He wanted to kill all the demigods and he himself wanted to become immortal. So that is how his tapasya was categorized in tamasa, or in mode of ignorance. Anyone else can remember any other example?
Ravana, Prabhuji. Ravana.
Ravana.
He also performed and he took out his intestines and in the tapasya.
Really?
But I don't remember what benediction he got though after the tapasya.
But I never heard that he removed his intestines.
There was a
Indrajit made one penance.
Yeah,
Can one person speak at one time, please?
Ravanasura, he performed a very severe austerity actually and tapasya, ghor tapasya, but I don't know. It was from a movie, so I don't know if it's a fact.
All right. So we can always quote from what we have heard. Let's go to that. Fine. So another example is of Brukasur. You might have heard that. Another name for him is Bhasmasur also. So he wanted to do tapasya in order to get such a boon that whomever he will keep hand on, his head will be burst. That means he will die. That was his desire. And what kind of austerity he was doing to please Lord Shiva? That he was cutting his own limbs and offering in the fire sacrifice. You can just imagine what it means, to cut one's own limbs and offer them. So Lord Shiva, not becoming pleased on him, but rather taking pity on him, he appeared. What a fool is this person. So then when he asked what you want, and he's saying that I want this kind of food, that whomever I'll put my hand, his head will be touched. So this is the exact example of tamasa tapasya. Now I'll speak about dana. The three dana in three modes. Datavyam iti yad danam. Diyate anupakarine.
Anukamparine.
Diyate anukaparine. Anupakarine.
Deshe kale cha patre cha. Taddanam satvikam smritam. Translation.
Charity given out of duty without expectation of return at the proper time and place and to a worthy person is considered to be in the mode of goodness. Hare Krishna.
So datavyam iti. That means worth giving. And what? Anupakarine. That without expecting. And then desha kale cha patre cha. Considering the time, place, and the person whom the donation is given or the charity is given. So that is seen by the person, and then that such kind of data or dana is satvikam smritam, is considered to be satvika. So generally we see that if this is not seen, whether somebody is qualified or not qualified, then he may misutilize the charity. He may not use it in right way. So that is why it has to be seen. Generally, when money is given as charity to somebody who is not qualified, so then what happens? He misutilizes it. And this we see very common in today's day and age. Whenever people get money, either from their day's hard work or by begging, so first thing they will do is to go and purchase a bottle of liquor. So in that sense, then the person who has given the charity, he has not done in a right thing, because this person who has received the charity is misutilized. So that's why it has to be seen. So to such persons, specific item has to be given which he cannot misutilize. So he can be offered the food or something like that. Even now, today's day and age, I have heard that in holy places, some people they come forward and they ask, please give us charity, and then you say that no, we don't give money. So then they say, okay, actually, I have lost my chappals, so please give me chappals. And then out of compassion, we go to the nearest shop and then purchase chappal for that and person. And the next day, he goes back to the shop and sells it and takes money. So this is how what goes on. Or some people they say that all right, you don't give money, just give me today's ration. Give me some rice and dal, and they also do the same thing. So it is so difficult to identify even the right person in today's day and age. The best is to offer some prasad to everyone, which they can immediately eat in front of you, and that is how it will be the best thing. So that is charity in goodness. So here Srila Prabhupada talks about in the purport. Yes, somebody can read this.
There is no recommendation for giving charity indiscriminately. Spiritual perfection is always a consideration. Therefore, charity is recommended to be given at a place of pilgrimage and at lunar or solar eclipses, or at the end of the month, or to a qualified Brahmana or a Vaishnava devotee, or in temples.
Yes, go ahead.
Such charities should be given without any consideration of return. Charity to the poor is sometimes given out of compassion. But if a poor man is not worth giving charity to, then there is no spiritual advancement.
Yeah. So that clarifies everything what we just discussed. Yattu pratyupakarartham
Yattu pratyopakaraर्थम
lam uddishya va punaha
फलम उद्दिश्य वा पुनः
diyate cha pariklishtam
दीयते च परिक्लिष्टं
taddanam rajasamskritam.
तद्दानं राजसंस्कृतं।
But charity performed with the expectation of some return or with a desire for fruitive results or in a grudging mood is said to be charity in the mode of passion.
So Vishnu Chakra Thakur speaks about this, the mood of such a person, that okay, pratyupakarartham means I have given now, so in future I'll ask again, some other form to him. And then sometimes it is done with the pariklishtam, with a great distress, because some superior might have asked to give him. So that's why he has done that. Or he may wonder, pariklishtam can also mean that why I have to give so much. With such grudging mood, once gives it. So that is a charity in more of passion. So pratyukarartham, with the desire to get back something, phalam uddishya. While doing this charity, he is thinking of some future benefits in terms of heavenly planets or something, and pariklishtam, with great grudging mood. Yes, somebody can read this translation. Sorry, purport.
Charity is sometimes performed for elevation to the heavenly kingdom and sometimes with great trouble and with repentance afterwards. Why have I spent so much in this way? Charity is also sometimes given under some obligation at the request of a superior. These kinds of charity are said to be given in the mode of passion. There are many charitable foundations which offer their gifts to institutions where sense gratification goes on. Such charities are not recommended in the Vedic scripture. Only charity in the mode of goodness is recommended.
Yes. And now will come the charity in mode of ignorance. Adeshakale yaddanam
Adeshakale danam
praptebhyascha diyate asakritam avajñatam tamasam udarantam.
And charity, and yeah, please go ahead, Mataji. And charity performed at an impure place, at an improper time to unworthy persons or without proper attention and respect is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Sorry.
Yes. Adeshakale, impure place. Apraptebhyas chadiyate. Apatrebhyas, sorry. To an unworthy person. Adesha and Kale. So Desha is an impure place and Kale is improper time. And Apatrebhyas is unworthy person. And Avadnyatam is without proper attention or without respect. And Asat Kritam, without respect, without attention. So like that. So Tat Tamasam Udaritam. So it is not that somebody has to again and go and ask him give charity, and then he is in a grudging mood and not ready to give, and again he is going disrespecting practically, but not ready to give. So then this kind of charity is tamasic. Or we can see that somebody who is already a drunkard and he comes out of the wine shop with bottle in his hand, and already he is high on intoxication, and while coming back he sees on the road some beggar, and he drinks half of the bottle and offers the beggar and says, "Le, tu bhi kya yaad rakhega." So this is a charity, but it is completely in mode of ignorance. There is no consideration of the place. There is no consideration of the person who is giving. Or there is no consideration of time. There is no consideration of even what is being given. It's all completely in mode of ignorance. So Srila Prabhupada mentions there, contributions for indulgence in intoxication and gambling are not encouraged here. So generally that is done, but that sort of contribution is mode of ignorance. It is not beneficial, and it only increases the sinful tendency of the people. Like that. So this concludes the section wherein Krishna is speaking about Yajna, Dana, and Tapa, which are the three most important activities of Vedic life, which are divided into three modes. Are there any questions?
Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yeah, I have one question on Dhan. It's like many times or sometimes like we are doing these the transfers, money transfers, okay, to the charities. So it could be some organizations after hearing properly or after checking that. But like we're not checking the time or anything like that, and we're not following any proper process, Prabhu. So is that worth to, or we have to revisit that?
Prabhupada mentions there that charity is to be offered to temples and especially in propagation of Krishna consciousness. So then that is done, then that is all right. But then as you are asking about the time, so obviously if you in depth, then everything has its own value, and it has its value certainly. So there are muhurtas and panchang and all those things there. But if we see here, when the Krishna is talking about charity in mode of goodness, it is mentioned here that it has to be done at proper time and place. And Prabhupada mentions what are those proper time and place is at lunar or solar eclipse or at the end of the month. So that is what Prabhupada has given in the purport. So maybe that can be followed to some extent. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. We do dana. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji.
Sorry. We do charity after a person dies, Prabhuji, on the 10th day, 11th day, and all. So how can we consider that in the mode of goodness or ignorance or what?
I'm sorry, I could not get your question.
Actually, we do dana in the charity on the person after the person dies, Prabhuji, on the 10th, 11th, and 12th days. Usually, we do charity in the name of that person who has died. So, what can we consider it? What it should be considered, Prabhuji? It is in the mode of goodness or passion or ignorance.
So Krishna has given us these three verses to identify. So you can gauge according to these three verses, and where it falls, you can find out. Is it done with expectation of return? Is it done at proper time or place? Is it done to the worthy person? This is considered charity mode of business? Or is it done with some pratyupakarartham? So it's very clear to these verses. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Sure.
Prabhuji, this is slightly little away from charity, but I was just thinking, Prabhuji, like if anyone is employed somewhere and they are getting a salary, and the salary is used for wrong means, does the employee get also effect of the bad deeds done from the salary or something which is given as a compensation?
When salary is given, that is given against the work done by the person. So after, so the employer, according to my understanding, the employer is paying to the employee for the work he or she does in the office. So in that particular time, then whatever he is doing, accordingly the employer is paying. Now, after his job is done, he gets his salary. After that, what he is doing with that money? So then I don't think so that employer would be the held responsible for his activities, because employer has paid him for the work which he has done for the employer. But I will certainly need to get some clarification and seek some help from my seniors to give a better understanding on this. But as far as my understanding goes, it is like that.
Prabhuji, I also had the same understanding, but my why I had this question is, suppose someone is paying someone more, like the employer had to pay for the work, maybe say 100 rupees, but out of compassion or being considerate, he's paying him 120. So whatever is excess is paid and that is misused, then is it something bad for the person who gives that excess? So that has become like a thought that was coming to my mind. Sometimes we be considerate with people who work for us, with servant maids, with all sorts of people, but just being little more considerate, going out of way, paying them more, and then if they are not utilizing that money appropriately, so is something which should not be done?
Just a minute, I will bring out one verse.
Sure, Prabhuji.
It is in Bhagavad Gita only. Just a minute. There is one verse, I am not able to locate it, which says that this karma is so subtle that it is very difficult to actually find out the karmana gahano gati, is something like that, the line is there. So it is very difficult to find out what will the end result of all these things, you know. And when Krishna is explaining this, before that he is explaining the karma and akarma and vikarma, which you all must have studied in the 3rd chapter. So, and there Prabhupada concludes that the best thing is to do akarma, that is performance of devotional service. So yes, there are so many such things. This is one example which you have put it, but there may be some other so many things which may be there, which devotees must be facing in different situations. So if we are at the core of our heart with proper intentions and practicing Krishna consciousness, then the small things which are done inadvertently may not be considered by the Lord. Lord will forgive all those things. But that sincerity and seriousness must be there with the devotee. But otherwise, yes, there are so many such things where so many things may not be understood. So we can just try to be as sincere and serious as possible. And eventually, Krishna may also give us the intelligence of whether what we are taking this action is right or not. Like that.
Prabhuji, this helps me a lot. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dhanwad.
Okay, so shall we end the session? If there are no further questions.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada.
Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.